Okay friends, one of the first things we have to do is safely raise and support the vehicle so the rear wheels are off the ground. After that, remove all 5 of your lug nuts and the wheel. Now with the wheels off, let's continue on by removing this slider bolt. Pull that out of there. Now we're going to use our pry bar, come under this area, we can pry this up. Now with that up, we have access to our caliper mounting bolts. Now we can remove our caliper. Now let's take the pads out of this. This one's got a couple little clips. I'm just going to remove the bracket. Now we're just going to make sure we can push in this caliper piston. Now it's going to be time to remove the brake rotor. Something to pay attention to is this area along here. You can see there's a lot of corrosion buildup. That might potentially hold the rotor on. Other than that, you have e-brake shoes that are located inside. If you notice that this comes free, but it doesn't want to come off, you might have to unplug this right here, find the adjuster on the back side, and de-adjust the e-brake shoes. Grab onto this, give it a nice wiggle, and remove it. Now the next thing you're going to want to do is make sure you clean out this entire area here before you go ahead and put your rotor on. You might find things that look like that. You're going to want to get rid of it. And of course, any buildup that you happen to find on this area here, that's going to be the mating surface where the rotor needs to go. Along this area, you might find a whole bunch of corrosion that looks like this. That's all stuff that you're definitely going to want to make sure you get off of there. You're going to want to use a brush of some sort and try to clean up this area as well. Make sure you get off any raised areas. Once you have this area cleaned up, we're going to move along to cleaning our bracket and our sliders. You'll notice one of your sliders is still inside your caliper here. If it looks like mine, just go ahead and carefully sand it down, inspect it, and then of course we're going to re-lubricate it. Now on the bench, we're going to go ahead and clean up our bracket. Obviously, it should have slider boots on it. Just go ahead and grab onto it, work it off of there. Then you're just going to inspect it. Make sure it's in good condition. If it looks like it's torn or stiff in any way, you're going to want to replace it. This one looks decent, so let's go ahead and set them aside. Now we're going to remove this tin right here. And this one over there. Now let's clean out the slider ports. Use a bore brush. Now that we have the ports cleaned out, the next couple things we want to pay attention to is the area where the boot's going to ride. You want to make sure you have this cleaned down as well. Of course, if moisture can make its way inside there, you're going to have an issue with your sliders. Once you have both these areas cleaned off, continue on by cleaning this area here. This is where the pad's going to ride. You're going to want to get this corner right in the center, the other side, and then up along this ridge as well. Now we're going to clean off the slider pin. You want to make sure you get off all the existing debris, and of course make sure you get up into this area approximately right here. You want to make sure that's nice and clean so that moisture doesn't make its way in between the pin and the boot. Of course, you're also going to want to do the slider that's back over at the car as well. Make sure you clean it off, and of course that one's going to have a little rubber boot on it. Just make sure it's clean and not swollen. We'll set those aside. The next thing we want to do is get ready to put these onto our bracket. Now to do that, what I'm going to do is just take a little bit of this grease. I'm going to try to put some of it into the slider hole. And then of course we'll get along this lip right here where the boot's going to ride. That's going to be very important, help keep moisture out of there. With both of those lubricated, let's go ahead and put on our slider boot. Give it a nice twist. Do the same to the other one. With both of the boots on, let's continue on to the areas that we cleaned down on the bracket. Now let's take our tin, put it right on there. Some lube on the slider pin here. Make sure you get up into that lip. Let's take some of that caliper lube and go right along the piston area here. And then we'll go along both of these ears as well. Looking behind the hub right here, you're going to be able to see the adjuster for the e-brake. Obviously that's something that you're going to want to adjust after we have the brakes put back together. Let's apply some copper never seize on the hub surface here. Now we're going to start installing our brand new parts. The first thing we need to do with our rotor though is clean down the braking surface. Now let's put on our rotor. If it doesn't feel like it wants to slide on, you're going to have to de-adjust your e-brake shoes a little bit. The next thing you want to do is just try to spin this. We want it to be able to spin freely. Also, you want to go ahead and hop inside the Jeep. You're going to put on the emergency brake and then try to spin this. You can use something with a little bit of leverage, like a pry bar, and just make sure it doesn't turn with the e-brake on. Let's go ahead and pop this out of here. Assuming the e-brake's adjusted properly, continue on by putting in your rubber boot. Now it's going to be time to put on our outer brake pad. Slide this right down. Now let's grab the bracket. We'll just slide it onto the slider pin here. Now we're going to put in our inner pad. Slide that into its bracket. Bring this right down. Grab your other slider pin, start that in as well. Let's go ahead and slide this in. Now we're going to put in both of our caliper bracket bolts from the back side here. Now we're just going to bottom these out, and then we'll torque these to 80 foot-pounds. Now we'll torque this to 32 foot-pounds. Double check everything. Go ahead and check your master cylinder, make sure it's full, and pump up the brake. Now let's get our wheel back up on here. We'll start all of our lug nuts, bottom them out, get the wheel back on the ground, and then we'll torque them to 100 foot-pounds. Torqued.